All right. I guess we are waiting for people to show up. My name is Matt Wilpers, and I have with me Jessie Diggins, Olympian Jessie Diggins. How are you?
I'm doing great, Matt. How are you doing?
Good. We're just getting ready to go, letting some people join in. Oh yeah, here I can see the number now. I'm new to this. So,
First time Zoomer. Haven't done it before.
oh really?
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. All right, cool. I think we're both very excited. We were just chatting before this. We're super excited for this conversation today. It is called Recover Like a Champion. And I have all kinds of questions I'm going to be peppering Jessie with today. It's going to be a lot of fun. And a big shout out, of course, to Noon and Lyric. We'll talk about that before we get started. But how are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm coming to you from Drammen, Norway, where actually this is a very cool place for me because my first ever World Cup start was out of Drammen. It was actually in the trails above Drammen, in Connerud, but this was where in 2011 I got my butt kicked in my first ever World Cup, and I thought it was super cool. And there was like 10,000 fans on the side of the course cheering. So this is where I got introduced to what the World Cup was really like.
Everyone, she got her butt kicked and she had the
Literally,
best time of her life. Like that's
very
called
humbling.
that is called a winning attitude right there, if I've ever heard one. That's so cool.
Yeah.
But that's awesome. So now you were telling me earlier what you're there for. Please tell everyone about what you're about to do.
Yeah. So on Thursday, we have a city sprint here in Drummond, and this is super cool. They shut down, like, I don't know if it is their main street, but it looks like Main Street. And they shut it down. They truck in a ton of snow, and the race starts at the bottom. You go uphill around this super cool old church. You come bombing down, turn a tight corner at the bottom, and then come back up, and the race finishes up the steps of the church. So people lunge like uphill into the finish line. And there's all these iconic photos of people lunging with their foot forward and their body like falling backwards down the trail. So it's a really, really cool race. It's going to be very exciting. It's a very cool atmosphere because it's right in the middle of the city. And it's also very different because instead of skiing to warm up, you're running. Like you're running around the streets to warm up. So you're like running through the fans and through the live band that's playing and stuff. It's gonna be a cool thing.
That is wild. That is so cool. So it's actually you have to finish upstairs at the end.
Yeah, I mean they put snow right up over the stairs, so like the whole last 100 meters is all uphill, but then it like pitches up really steep at the end, and it's really cool.
That's so is it one lap?
It's like a spiral.
It's a spiral.
Yeah.
Okay. How long is
Mhm.
it? So,
I think it's 1.2 kilometers, but it's been a few years since we've raced it because of COVID. So I could be wrong.
that's so crazy. All right. Well, no, I mean, good luck with all that. That's going to be a lot of fun. Is it going to be on TV anywhere, or can we see it anywhere?
It should be streaming in the US on Peacock. And that's how you can watch most of the races. So that'll be that'll be really fun. But and then
Oh,
if you're in Norway or in Europe, you might be able to just watch it on normal TV. So
oh my gosh, that's so cool. All right. Well, best of luck.
thank
All right.
you.
Well, let's get after it, shall we?
Let's do it.
All right. So today, this is called Recover Like a Champion. We're going to talk about recovery today. And of course, I'm here with Olympian Jessie Diggins, and it is an honor and a pleasure to meet you. And it's like when I'm going through your bio and everything that you've done, I'm just like, oh my gosh, amazing. You're such a rock star. But we'll talk about that in 2 seconds. First, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Lyric Therapeutic Massager. You're all amazing. If you haven't checked out Lyric, you have to. It takes the guesswork out of wellness with breakthrough rhythm therapy technology to help relax and temporarily relieve pain. It's super cool because it's guided. I've never seen that. And I really love it. It's really cool. And of course, you all know me and Noon Hydration. Love you all. It's a company dedicated to keeping you hydrated as humanly possible. Lots of different tablets and products filled with electrolytes to keep you happy, healthy, and hydrated. So thanks to all of our sponsors. You guys are amazing. So Jessie Diggins, let's get into this. Your bio, check this out. American cross country skier, from Afton, Minnesota. And on Instagram, I got a lot of people shouting out Minnesota, and so I'm so proud. You have one sister, Mackenzie, and you began skiing at the age of 4. Quite impressive. Uh-oh. I got to turn my cell phone off there. Rule number 1. So your teammate and you won the first ever cross-country skiing gold medal at the Winter Olympics in Pyeongchang 2018. That's super cool. And then in 2022 at the Beijing Olympics, just recently, you won silver medal in the 30-kilometer freestyle and bronze medal in the individual sprint, making you the most decorated American cross-country skier of all time. That's insane. Very good. And then you won 4 medals at the FIS Nordic World Ski Championships. And then in 2021, you finished first in the women's overall standings for the 2020-2021 FIS Cross Country World Cup. And you're the first American to do so. Very good.
Thanks.
When you think back on all this, what do you think? You're just like, you're just like hungry for more, I bet.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not done yet. So that's a good feeling. Like I know that there's still a lot of places that I want to improve. There's a lot of technical goals I'm working towards, a lot of different things. So I'm definitely not done. But also thinking back, it is so cool because we got to share this as a team, like all these different accomplishments. I'm thinking about all the different people who helped me get there and all the hard work that went into it. And it's a lot of good memories. Yeah.
Amazing. That was so cool. That's great. How big is your team?
Well, at the moment we are a little bit smaller because it's just the sprint team here in Drummond. But in general, I think we have like 25-ish people
Okay.
on the US ski team right now, which is awesome. And then I train with a smaller club team out of Vermont in the summer, the SMST2 team. So we've got a lot of people around me that are pushing me and encouraging me and helping me through the hard days. And then people that I get to help encourage and push through their hard days. So it's pretty cool, like back and forth.
That's awesome. Very good. All right. Well, let me get into some questions here for you. I have a lot of questions coming your way. But first of all, I want to remind everybody that we are having a giveaway today. 2 lyric massagers are being given away, as well as a 6-month supply of Noon. So check it out. And then let's get after it here. So let's talk about the Olympics. First of all, congrats on the silver and bronze medal again. That's amazing. How do you feel? How does it feel to be the first American woman to medal in an individual event and the most decorated American Nordic skier?
I
How does
mean,
that feel?
it's a very cool feeling. It's still sinking in, especially because it's been so recent. I feel like the Olympics just ended and we're about to get into the Paralympics, which I'm super excited to watch and cheer for all our teammates there. But yeah, it's very cool because I think even though it is an individual medal, it's something that we did do as a team. And that's very cool because to celebrate that with our coaches and our wax techs, I mean, I don't know how many people watching this know about all the crazy stuff that goes on behind the scenes, but before that 30K race in Beijing, like our wax techs are out there in crazy wind, freezing cold temperatures, and they're testing all sorts of combinations of wax to put on our skis. So they're out there skiing probably close to 30K themselves, and that's before the race even starts. That's just to get us on the start line with the equipment that we need to be competitive in the race. So when you cross the finish line and you've had the best race of your life, it's so cool because when you're eventually helped up off the snow because you can't stand and you get to celebrate with your team, it's amazing getting to see their faces and see what this means to them too, because it's also their medal, like it's also their win. It's not just you skiing totally alone, achieving something alone out there. So it has been a really cool feeling because I feel like we've gotten to really celebrate that as a team. And that's been very powerful.
I had no idea about the wax tech. But it makes so much sense. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Wow.
Yeah,
And
I
you,
mean, like everything, like all the best things that you do in life, you don't accomplish totally alone, right? So besides our wax techs and coaches and teammates, we also have a ton of volunteers. So we had volunteers, taking 3 weeks out of their out of their lives, out of their jobs to come and massage us every day, and to come and we had a physical therapist there. So if you got hurt, you had someone there to help you, and you had just, oh, it was so cool to see the amazing amount of support and love that came out of those games. So I think, to me, that's what those medals actually represent.
Teamwork makes the dream work, right? So
Yeah.
very good. Well, I mean, talking about, recovery and all that, just perfect segue in our next question here. Competing at that level takes a big toll on your body, I'm sure. And we saw in the Olympics. And of course, how do you prioritize recovery? And can you walk us through your post-competition routine?
Absolutely. Because for me, that was a really big part of it. Was, okay, there's 6 races at the Olympics. We raced the first event, the last event. The women's 30K is literally the last event of the Olympics. Like, you finish and you have like 5 hours to turn it around before closing ceremonies. So talking about recovery, that was a really tight turnaround. And then we're all these different events in between. And so I sat down with my coach ahead of the games and looked at the schedule, and we went, okay, like, I want to race all these events. All of these events could be a really good opportunity, but how are we going to make this work? Because there's a period in the middle of the games where it was literally race, day off, race, day off, race. Um, and on top of that, you're at altitudes. We were racing at just under 6,000 feet. Um, and it was super, super cold and super windy. So everything you did took more of a toll on you. So for me, I really looked at, what do I do going into the races and what do I do going out of the races? Because beyond just sleep, it was all about hydrating and taking care of my body and taking care of my muscles, to make sure that they could bounce back time and time again. So one of the things I did was I actually flew over there with everything I thought that I would need, because even though we had amazing resources and support, um, I'm a little superstitious, and I was like, I really want all my favorite flavors of all my favorite products. I need them, and it's very important that I have them there. And so, for example, like with Noon, like, they did this spice cider immunity flavor this winter that came out.
Gold, gold.
It was
Yeah,
so
gold.
good. So I stocked up on like 20 of these, and then I brought a ton over because I was really worried about staying healthy. And then I also like to use the podium series. And so for me, it was really important to make sure that every single day I was using Noon Sport and Noon Immunity just to drink more water, because I wanted to make sure that I was actually hydrating enough, especially at altitude and with wearing masks. Everything just dries you out faster, and faster than you realize.
I didn't even think about that, but you're right.
Yeah, right, because you're wearing your mask and all of a sudden the inside of it is, like, really gross and wet, and, when you're, like, working out inside and you're like, "Okay, like, I'm losing a lot here," and so I wanted to make sure that I was hydrating enough, not only through the day, but then on race day, I always use the Prime mix, before, and then I have in my drink belt, so what I'm drinking while I'm warming up and right before the race. And what I was feeding with during the 30K is the endurance mix. So I needed to make sure I had carbohydrates as well as electrolytes. And then afterwards, I had the recovery mix, and making sure I'm eating food as well. And then after the race, massage is super important. So we've been talking about the lyric. And one of the things that I actually really, really love, um, is to use this harder of they have all these different heads that you can put on it. Whoops, there we go. So you can have like a softer tip, but you can also have a harder one. And I really feel like the line between my quad and my IT band gets stuck. And so I really feel like I like to get in there with this, and also my feet. And a lot of people are really too ticklish for that. But my feet, after being in ski boots, especially on a sprint day when you are jumping, you're running around, you're in your ski boots the whole time, they're just not they're not made for that. Ski boots are made for skiing, not like running around in the start pen. And so I really like to get in there, and it feels like it breaks up that tightness so my feet can actually bend and not feel like they're going to cramp. So that was some of my go-to habits for just making sure that I was taking care of myself. And honestly, like it really was habits, not like something I had to think about, because this is just what I do all summer, all fall, all winter. And so going into the games, it wasn't this question of like, what do I do now? Like now I'm not sure what to do. It was like, no, I know what to do. Like I know what what drinks I like. I know what flavors I love. I know what will make me drink more. I know exactly what setting I want my massage gun on, and I know exactly how I like to use it to make sure that my feet feel great and my quads feel great. And so that was really nice because I had tested everything going into the game so that nothing was like I wasn't trying to figure things out in the moment while I was over there.
Yeah, it's just so great to hear, because in my classes, I often talk about like developing good habits and routines, and that great athletes have great routines. And it's like, and those routines take a lot of trial and error, right?
We
To figure
do.
out what works. And there's just no cutting the corners of that. But then when you find those routines that work, it helps you eliminate variables so that you know you can rely on them because you know they work, and you can focus on other things. And so these are just things that you rely on so that you can focus on like what you need to do that day. So
Oh,
that's
absolutely. And there's also something really confidence building for me
mm,
about these routines. And this is something I've talked about a lot where, I used to get super, super nervous before races, and I still do. But I used to get nervous to the point where it was like and my energy was just flying everywhere. It was a waste of energy. And so part of what I've worked on through sports psychology is really thinking about like controlling what I can control and then letting the rest go and setting my goals and setting my routines. And so for me on race day, I've the night before I've set my goals. I've thought about how I want to pace the race. I've thought about the technique I want to be thinking about. I've set my mental goals for the day. And then race morning, I start going through all my routines. I'm like, oh, and so I get my shaker bottle and I'm like, okay, I'm making my shake. Then I'm gonna drink this, then I'm gonna drink that, then I'm gonna do this massage. And like and it becomes very automatic and it's very comforting because I'm not like, gosh, I don't know what to do now. Like it's just like I know exactly what I'm doing. And that's super helpful for me because it just takes the guesswork out. And then I feel like, all right, this is my race day thing. And my body knows exactly what's happening. And it's kind of that almost like the Pavlovian response, like you
yeah.
taste that same flavor of sports drink and you're like, "Oh, it's go time because I only drank this on race day."
Yeah, no, that's so cool. No, absolutely. And that's such a common question I get as a coach is just like, I'm so nervous pre-race, the pre-race jitters and all that stuff. How do you deal with this? And it's just like, there you go. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. And this goes into like kind of the next question. It was like about preparing to compete. And you've kind of already answered this, but getting your mind and body ready for the challenge ahead of you. You know, these are major events you're talking about. It's like the biggest of big events you could ever hit. Like, how do you wrap your mind and body around that? How do you do it?
Well, so we did talk already about like the
Yeah, that was
hydration and the massage and the physical part, but I guess it is important to hit on the mental part because I think that's where, even if your body's ready, if your brain isn't ready, that's a big obstacle to overcome. So
yeah.
for me, I really like to, have my race basically starts a long time before I actually get to the start line. But the day before, I actually write down. Well, sometimes I actually write it down, but usually it's in my phone. So I'm not really writing, I'm typing, but I write down
It's
my
2022. All right.
exactly in this digital age. In my notes app, I set down my goals for the race. And I also worked through my timeline, working back from the start. So like a lot of our races started at like 3 or 3:30. So working back, like, all right, like I want to make sure I eat my last like normal meal with 3 hours to digest it. So then I want to eat at 12:30. So I work back like what bus am I going to take because transportation takes a really long time at the Olympics. And so I like work through my timeline so that on the day of I can look at it. It's already planned out. I'm not wondering in the moment again, like, what bus do I take? How do I get there? When should I leave? It's like, I'm gonna look. I already figured this out. I already thought it through when I was in a very calm, non-nervous state. And then I also work through goals. So I always have 3 different goals for a race. One of them is pacing, because especially for an event like, say, an individual start 10-kilometer race, you're out there by yourself for 10 kilometers. It's not a mass start. You can't just follow someone else. You have to figure out, how hard do I push and when? What are my strengths on this course? Like, how much am I going to recover on this long downhill? How hard can I push over the top and make sure I don't just totally blow up?
Yeah.
Right. And so I really think through that pacing, and I visualize skiing the course with that pacing strategy. Then I set a technique goal. So, what am I telling myself? What do I want to focus on? Again, with the example of the 10K Classic, maybe I really want to think about staying tall through my head and my shoulders. Because when I get tired, I fold over like this, and then I don't kick my skis very well. So I'm really thinking about trying to ski tall on the uphills. And maybe I come up with a mantra like, chin up. And that's what I'm going to say to myself at the bottom of every hill. So I remember what I need to do to be, the most efficient that I can be on that climb. And then I set a mental goal, which is, when the going gets hard, which it will, because it always does. What am I going to say to myself? Like, am I going to have a mantra I repeat to myself? Am I gonna, count to 10 to stay in the moment? That's one of my favorite tricks, because you can do 10 of anything. And so I set down these goals, and then on race day morning, I reread them, I look at it, I visualize one more time, and then I feel like I'm ready to go.
Everyone, I like want everyone to take notes on that. Like, watch that again and again and again, because that is so that what you provided there was just great information. Because it's really like those nerves are unreal, and it's just like how you deal with it, especially on the mental side. Oh man, that was some great information right there. So thank you. That's
Oh,
awesome.
the other thing I should mention that I did during this Olympics was I didn't read the news at all. And that was very healthy for me. Like, I had set ahead of time some of my social media stuff. I had somebody running it for me back home. So I still shared, like, here, can you post this photo with these words? But I logged out of my social media accounts while I was over there at the Olympics, actually. And I don't know if I'm supposed to say that, but I did. So I was still like the words and the photos behind it, but it was so healthy for me to have 3 weeks of nothing. Zero social media, zero news. I didn't read any news about the Olympics, about skiing. It was really funny because I would FaceTime with my fiance, and he would be like, "So guess what happened like 20 feet away from you? Let me tell you about it because you don't know." And it was really funny, but it was so healthy for me to not be surrounded 24/7
Yeah.
with racing and news about me racing, because
Yeah.
that's one, way too much for anybody's ego. That's not healthy. And also two, it's just so much like Olympics all the time. And I think it was so important for me to be able to talk with my family and talk with my fiance. And we watched a lot of Ted Lasso as a girls team. And like, we just did some really very simple, like, playing games and just hanging out and talking, that really sometimes race day with the nerves can feel bigger than big, and it starts to, take a life of its own. And I think sometimes, in order to help it feel a little bit smaller, if there are ways that you can unplug or disengage or say, you know what, we've figured out a race plan. We don't need to talk about the race anymore. Like, we can we can watch a TV show. We can do something else. We can find a way to just be normal and human for a little while. I think that's been really, really important for me. And so I think that's one of the things I wanted to share that I learned, because it's really hard to put the phone down, but it was super, super healthy for me.
Everyone, this is gold. This is gold. I'm telling you. No, it's great because it's what we talk, what you always talk about as a coach is that, like, when the going gets tough, you bring it back to the fundamentals, you bring it back to the basics, and you make a big world go small, really.
Yeah,
And you can do that physically, you can do that mentally. And by controlling what goes in, like what mentally, what goes in, physically, what goes in, and everything. So
exactly.
that is super valuable information. And I just learned a lot right there. So That's great. And this goes back to our next question. You do a great way of just leading me right to the next question. Is you're known for a great attitude, which is, I love that because I'm always talking about how important it is to have a positive attitude as an athlete. How do you stay positive while competing on such a stressful stage?
I think that's a great question. And I think I really liked what you said, where you do have control over what goes in, physically and mentally. Like you do have control over what you are consuming in terms of social media, digitally. So I think part of keeping a good attitude is, yeah, if there's things that you find very triggering on the internet or really depressing, and you have a big race coming up, maybe unfollow that account, or or mute it for a little while, or like maybe say, okay, on race morning I'm not going to wake up and read the news, I'm going to do that after the race. Like find ways to control what you are consuming in terms of the internet, because I think that sometimes does have a really it has a lot of power over what we're feeling and experiencing with our emotions. um and in that way, you can also control the positive things that you're bringing in. And so for me, some of that was really connecting with my team and really connecting with my family and my fiance, with the way the time change worked. I was very lucky. I got to talk to him twice a day. That was really wonderful because it always makes me happy. And I know that. And it makes him happy too. And so it's just something where, every day 2 times, I knew I was gonna have this really happy slice of normal, and that was really important to me to protect that. And so, I think in terms of, like, attitude around races, making sure that, you know, racing isn't life or death. Like, we're very, very privileged to get to do this for our jobs. It's so cool, but at the end of the day, it literally is fun and games. Like, sport is entertainment, and I always have to try to keep that perspective, because sometimes it starts to feel so big, like, "Oh my gosh, if you don't perform at the Olympics, you totally failed," all this stuff. It's super easy to get in your own head. Um, and for me, it was important to say, "All right, I've controlled what I can control, and I'm just gonna focus on the things that help me keep my happy little bubble." And I also think it was really important for me, to define what success was gonna look like, because I think we're yeah,
I love
because
that. You gotta,
well, I mean,
you gotta start with a definition. Yeah.
right, because as soon as you start letting someone else tell you, "Okay, you have succeeded if you make the Olympic team." Well, now you've succeeded if you medal. You've medaled. Oh, well, now you only succeed if you win. Oh, you've won before. Well, you didn't win by enough. It wasn't exciting. Oh, now it's boring. You win all the time. Like that is what happens when you let
Wow.
other people define success for you. And it's really concerning to me. So for me, before the Olympics, like well before, I sat down with myself and my sports psychologist and said, okay, I've decided that success at the Olympics for me is going to be knowing that going in, I've uncovered every stone that I could, meaning like I did everything I could to, take care of myself, to train well, to prepare well, had the best preparation camp that I could going in, so that I can get to that start line and feel like, yes, like I did everything I could, like no regrets. I know I tried as hard as I possibly could for this. And then the second thing was being a good I always set my goals in threes. This is a thing for me.
Hey, no, it's the powers of threes, for sure.
I know it's like, I don't know why. Like I can't have 2 goals. I have to have 3. Can't have 4. But the second goal was being a good teammate. And so like the games can be very, very stressful. And we know that. And I knew that going into it. And so I wanted to make sure that I was considerate and kind. And no matter how the race went, that I would go and thank all the wax techs afterwards and check in with them and check in with my coach before I left the venue. And so just like being a good person, like that to me defines success at the games way more than the results. Like who you are under pressure says a lot more about you than if you have a medal or not. Um, and then the last part for me was crossing the finish line with nothing left. So if I cross the finish line and I looked back on that race and I went, yep, that was it. There's no more gas in the tank. Like I went as hard as I could. Then you can't have regrets, because you can't get mad at someone for doing something that they're physically not capable of doing at that moment in time. Like, that's just not fair. So for me, like, if I crossed the finish line and knew that that was it, I just gave it my all, then I can and should feel proud of what I did.
This is so wonderful. Such great information. Yeah, everyone take notes. This is like, I'm learning so much. And and what you said about, like, for me, like, as a, like, I raced and running, and it was just like, I didn't really start making big strides until I started focusing less on, like, being like where I was in position to other people, and more on, like, what I could really do, what was
Yeah.
inside of me. And then once I started, like, focusing on that, it was like big breakthroughs.
That makes so
Uh,
much sense to me though, because
yeah,
that's the
but
only
no,
thing you can control is you.
but it's so easy to get caught up out there of, like, in just everything else and all the things you can't control. So easy to get caught up in that. And so
Yeah.
to take that perspective inside, like you just said, is just like, that's where the gold mine's at. So
Absolutely. Because I mean, I get this question a lot is like, well, aren't you worried? Like, what if someone beats you? And what if you finish second to so and so? And it's like, well, then good for them. They had a great day. And like, and also good for me for trying as hard as I can because you can't control if someone else has the best day of their life. Or on the flip side, if someone has the worst day of their life and you win the race, does that mean you're not allowed to be proud because you weren't supposed to win? You know what I mean? Like it's
yeah,
hard to start thinking that way. So I think really like don't worry about where somebody else finishes or how they race or how fast they are like cuz you have literally no control over them or what they do or how fast their skis are or how they're feeling that day. So I think it's important to not be basing our success off of anybody else.
man, this is amazing. Totally agree. Love it. That's so great. Next question for you I have here is, what is it like being a veteran athlete at the Olympics? Was there less or more pressure at this games, given your gold medal win back at Pyeongchang?
That's a great question because so my first games was in Sochi, Russia in 2014, then 2018, and now here. And they were all super different. Not just because it was a different games in a different place, but like I was in a different place for each games. And it was pretty cool getting to experience these different stages. Like coming in I think I was 22 at my first games, and I was the baby of the team at that time, and it was great because I had no pressure, and I came in and was like, "Oh, it's super cool!" Like, and just like going and cheering for biathlon and seeing different events, and just really enjoying the atmosphere of the games. And I knew I was there to try to perform my very best, absolutely, but also, I had no pressure. I didn't put pressure on myself, and I was there to learn, and I knew that. I'm here to figure out how the Olympics works so that when I come back in 4 years, I will not be totally distracted by the lights and the cameras. I won't be very confused by why everything is so hurry up and wait with all the lines. It's like being at Disney World. And I just wanted to figure it out. And so then in Pyeongchang, I came in with quite a bit of pressure to produce the first ever medal for the US. And when we were able to do that, honestly, one of my first thoughts the spring after the 2018 Olympics was like, oh man, like this is gonna be hard in 4 years because like, and I know that's kind of sad, but that was one of the realizations was like, this will not be easy coming back because now everyone's really watching and I knew that because even 2 years before the games like NBC started producing segments on me and there were interviews and it was a pretty quick turnaround and so I think a lot of that was talking with my sports psychologist, getting my head straight, controlling what you can control, like all the things we've talked about.
Yeah,
And then really being grounded in my team
yeah,
and in my family and just saying like, I know there's a lot of pressure, but I think the analogy that really made sense to me was like if I'm sitting on the side of like a river and watching stuff flow by in the river, like that here's me sitting here and this pressure is like this like parade going by on the river. It'd be silly to pretend it's not there. Like it's there in front of me, Absolutely. I'm not going to be like, nope, no, duh," I'm not going to try to block it out. Like, you can't ignore it. It's interesting to look at and it's super loud and it's in your face. But at the same time, knowing that it's going to go by, it won't be there forever. It's moving. It'll eventually be gone. And I don't have to run out and interact with it. Like, I'm not going to be able to ignore it, but I don't have to like rush out there and like join this parade that's floating by on the river. I can be like, all right, this is here. I'm acknowledging it, but I don't have to go play with it. So that's kind of the approach I tried to take with the pressure and the expectations going into the games is saying, like, all right, I know this is a thing, but I'm going to focus as much as I can on my team, my plan with my coaches, and talking to my family and just staying super right here in the moment. And, and know that this won't be around forever.
Your mental game is insane. It's so good. Your mental game is unreal. Awesome. Okay. So besides winning 2 medals, what was your favorite part about the Olympics at Beijing this year?
Oh gosh. I guess I had a few favorite parts. I think one of them was we didn't go to opening ceremonies because one, we were super worried about COVID the whole time. pretty
Yeah.
pretty concerned about it. So we knew we weren't gonna go. But we got all dressed up in our opening ceremonies outfits. And then the cross country team and a few of the biathletes, one of the mogul skiers, a few of the athletes who were still in the village, we all went and marched around together. And it was super cool. We went to the rings, we took some pictures and just talked with each other. And it was this cool, like, it was a it wasn't a huge team. It was a smaller team, but it felt really powerful. And it was a cool recognition of like, all right, we've made it here. We're all healthy. We're all ready to race. Like, this is great. And for me, that was definitely one of the cool memories. And the other one I think was like just getting ready for the relay days. There's a lot of nerves, a lot of excitement, a lot of jitters, but also a really cool, powerful feeling of team. And I live for those relays. It's so special to put on the glitter and everything. So I think for me, running around and putting glitter on all the athletes and also our coaches, our techs, like our volunteer doctor, like everyone who was there, I got glitter on all of them. And it was very special.
For everyone that knows my life at Peloton, it's like teaching after Olivia. So I get on the bike and it's covered by glitter. And by the time I'm done with class, I have like glitter in my eye, glitter in my foot, glitter everywhere.
Lucky
But
you.
you got to get your sparkle on. So,
True. True, you do. Yep.
all right. Well, here's few more questions here. Let's talk quickly about injury. Every athlete at some point has an injury or setback. How do you reframe those setbacks to make you stronger?
Absolutely. Because I think how kind of like the way we talked about pressure, it's injuries are hard. It sucks. It's not fun to be hurt. Right. And so I think, first of all, acknowledging that and not trying to avoid it, not trying to block it out, just saying, all right, let's take stock of the situation. This is not fun right now. And that's okay. Like, own your feelings. Because I think sometimes it's like, oh, you come back stronger. And it's like, but what if I don't? And also, I'm in pain right now, So
Yeah.
I think it's important to just acknowledge what's happening in the moment, and process that feeling. And then for me, it's always been important to, again, focus on what can I do right now. So, for example, I think it was like 4 months before the Sochi Olympics, I strained a muscle in between my toes, which I didn't know that was a thing you could do.
You
It was
strain the
very
muscle
painful.
in between your toes.
Yeah, like here.
I
And
can't imagine how painful that was.
yeah, I couldn't roll off the ball of my foot. And so I couldn't ski, couldn't run. I was in a boot and crutches. And I was like, okay, but I can spin bike. And yeah, so I got on the spin bike and got really invested in America's Next Top Model and watched that while I was on the spin bike. This was literally before Peloton, I think. And then I could do strength. So I was doing pull-ups with my foot in a boot. And so it was all about like, all right, well, what can I do? Like, where can I take this? And, sitting down with my coach, sitting down with the trainer, like, all right, what are all the things I can do? What's my plan? And then investing 100% in that plan. So I think for me, it's always been like first feel the feels and then make the plan and then do everything that you can.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, no, it's I think back to like college running, and it was like when we got injured, you never wanted to get injured because number one, it sucks. Number two, the coach would put you in the pool and you had to do aqua
Oh,
jogging.
yeah.
And I I know there's people that love aqua jogging out there. Oh, I do not.
Yeah.
I did quite a bit of aqua jogging out there. But
Oh,
anyways,
yeah.
he would sit by the pool and call out intervals. But anyways, but he was focusing on what you can control. And it was just like, well, maybe you can't run, but you can aqua jog. So you're aqua jogging.
Right.
So, but
Exactly.
no, that's super cool. Well, last question here before we go to some audience questions. And we've kind of already talked about this earlier, but I love hearing your answer for this. 2 Olympic medals, world championship titles. Where does Jessie go from here?
Well, there's a lot that I haven't done yet. So we were chatting about this before we started, but with cross country skiing, we have two totally different techniques. We've got skate or freestyle, and then we have classic technique. And for me, I've always been a pretty strong skater. That's where all the medals have generally come from. But I really want to improve my classic skiing, and it's getting there slowly but surely. But I have
I'm sure it's pretty
so
good.
there's a lot of room to grow. But it's so cool because I feel like every year I'm feeling a little more confident, a little more excited about how long I can hold my technique in a race before it starts to crack a little bit. And there's so much I want to do within that, within the classic side of our sport. And so I've definitely got a lot of goals there. And we're still working towards a lot of those team relay goals, and I want to be there for it. And for me, it's very, very cool because now I'm the old lady on the team, one of the old ladies, co-old lady. It's very exciting. And it's so cool to see our younger teammates coming up. And I want to be there to help them transition. And I want to be there with the team when we finally crack that 4x5 relay medal at a world championships or at a Olympics. So there's a ton of goals that I have, and some, are obviously team based, some are process based. Most of them are not results based. But I have a lot of room to grow.
I love that. You see, everybody, not everything's about the results based. It can be other things that we're looking at. So other goals. That's so great. I love it. So I have a bunch of questions. I mean, more questions than we'll ever be able to get through, but I'm going to try to pick a few.
Okay.
Um, and let me find that one let's see here. Two of them from Instagram that I definitely stuck out to me that I wanted to ask you. Jessie Lynn Molina, she said that the commentator during the Olympics said that you run a marathon every Friday while training. Is this true? I was just like, what?
um, I think that's a bit of a stretch. I'm going to be honest with you. Um, Nope, I don't. I have run a marathon as part of training, so that's probably where that comes from. I don't want to just discredit our commentators. We do a lot of very long runs. So a lot of times on the weekend, we'll do a long distance, what we call over distance training. So we
Yeah.
might run for like 4 or 4.5 hours. It's not a marathon because we're running in the mountains, so it's a much lower mileage and we're going very slow. But yeah, I do really enjoy long runs, but I do not run a marathon every Friday.
Okay, I was just like, if that's true, we need to talk. Just kidding, that's a lot.
That's true. You need help.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a ton of mileage. So,
Yeah.
actually, there's a few more here that I definitely wanted to ask you. Let's see here. This is a cool one. Bethany Ellison Malone asks, how much time do you devote to recovery each week, and what type of activities do you do for recovery?
Yes,
Like,
that's a great question.
yeah,
Um, oh, so many things. So usually what I've tried to do is again with the habits. So I really make sure that I always have noon and not just water in my drink belt. So and then for those of you who aren't skiers, like we have these fun little, I wonder if I have it around here somewhere, these fun little fanny packs that we train with so we can drink all the time on our long training sessions. And so I make sure there's always noon in there. And so that's one of the habits, is just making sure that as I'm sweating, I'm replacing. as much as quickly as possible, really. And then when I come in from training, um, I get out of my sweaty clothes, I have a snack, and then I do a quick massage. So again, I might use like this setting on the lyric, or I might use a much like harder, pointier end, but just really working through any really tough spots. And then the other thing I've been trying to do this summer, which is easier said than done, but get off my phone earlier before bed because I found that it really helps me sleep better if at least 30 minutes before bed, I don't have my phone in the room, I don't have it anywhere. And so, in order to wind down before bed, I'll use the lyric and, go over any tight spots, like especially like my back and neck that really relaxes me and it helps me wind down before bed. And that way I'm not looking at my screen and it gives me something great to do that is relaxing and really soothing. And helps me get away from like, oh, I'm just gonna check one more email and then my brain's gonna go off all night and I won't sleep.
No, that's awesome. No, I think we all need to get better at that. Put
Yeah.
it's shutting it down earlier.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. Let me see here. Few questions. Oh, there we go. Kenneth asks, congratulations on your outstanding season. Can you speak to the differences in recovery based on your training schedule? Like, so obviously you probably follow like a more like periodized training schedule of some sort where you work on like, what are the different, like as you're getting ready for say the Olympics, like what are the phases you go through? And then also like, what does recovery look like with, how does it differentiate between those different phases or does it?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, because we
Mm.
don't just train like the same all year, right? Because then you don't improve. You need
You
to
hear that,
have,
everybody? We don't just train the same throughout the year. Write
we
it
really
down,
don't.
put it on your calendars.
It's true. Like you
I
have
love it.
hard days, easy days, you have hard weeks, easy weeks. And then, with sometimes we have really long schedules of periodization. So it might be like 3 weeks that are building and then a much easier week. And then we build, 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 and then an easier week. So for me, in those really hard weeks, that's when I really need to hit that recovery, like really hard. So coming in and making sure I'm using my massage gun, really hitting up, especially I started making the recovery mix. I made my own shot blocks this summer. So
Nice.
I bought just super simple gelatin packets, like unflavored. And it was so quick and easy, and I would make a pan of them. And so I could eat them like while I was training. So as soon as I was done with my intervals, I was basically eating my hydration as well as drinking it. So I was making sure I was getting all those branched chain amino acids like very, very quickly. And I think that really helped me bounce back because I think something that it's easy to forget, you finish a really hard workout, you're tired, you're hot, you're sweaty, you don't really feel like eating, but making sure that you eat and drink within 20 to 30 minutes of finishing that training session really sets you up to bounce back for that next training session. You're a lot fresher. You've given your body those building blocks that it needs to recover and start that recovery process. So for me, that was really important. On the really easy weeks when I'm training quite a bit less, that's definitely the time to also have that mental recovery. So then, I'm not hitting it quite as hard and I'm making sure like, hey, if I want to do some other activities for training, if I want to go, you know, try a gravel bike ride in a totally new area and maybe I get lost, maybe it goes a little weird. Who cares? This is my easier week. And so that's it's really important, I think, to also periodize like your intensity on the mental side as well, because you can't sustain like go, go, go all the time. You need to have some ebb and flow.
Like one thing we always talk about in coaching is going from like general fitness to specific fitness. You feel like that's what you do for your training. It's like you go from like general fitness training and then you work your way towards the very specific demands of like whatever race you're getting ready for. Is that
Yeah, I would say, yeah, that makes sense. Cause like in the summer, like I said, gravel biking, running, we do some swimming, like we do a lot of different activities
yeah.
because the cool thing
Keep-
about cross country skiing is anything that makes you sweat is like pretty great training. And we weight lift twice a week. So really, yeah, you're really just building up this huge base. And yeah, we do roller ski and we do a lot of very specific intervals, like on roller skis or bounding
Yeah.
with poles up a mountain. But the closer we get to the season, the more specific the training gets. And then obviously in season, we're just skiing and some running and some weightlifting, but we're not going to go do like a 2-hour bike ride in the middle of the ski season because then we're not using those muscles as much and we're going to get sore. And
Yeah.
so that's when we start to hone it in. And then spring, summer, fall, that's when we, do all the other fun stuff that we've been looking forward to doing all winter.
No, so this is great. So everyone, like, think about her, like what she just talked about, like the training in the off season is like fun, dynamic, there's more than just skiing, and it keeps you mentally fresh, keeps you physically fresh, but you're also getting fit at the same time. So that's really awesome. One question I get often, and I wanted to throw it your way, was strength training, right? So when you're ramping up the intensity of your training, does your strength training stay the same as it was in the beginning of the season, or does it differ? How does your strength training change throughout the year?
Yeah, this is a great question because so in the spring, we're basically just trying to build that strength back up because I basically always take April off. That's for me physically and mentally to make sure I don't burn out, don't get injured. It's really important to take that rest.
1 month, everybody. 1 month. That's insane.
But I mean, like
And
I
I bet it's not
really
completely
rest.
off. I bet there's something going on there. But anyways, keep going.
No, but like I'm not racing.
Yeah.
I'm not training. I might go do some activities. So like, if we want to go play volleyball on the beach in Boston, I'm definitely going to say yes and go do it. But I'm not starting my watch. I'm not looking at my heart rate. I'm not doing any of that stuff. It's just super fun. And then in the spring we start building up strength, so that's a building phase. Through the summer, we have an amazing strength coach. She's so cool, and she writes us these periodized strength plans. So you build the strength, then you're lifting pretty heavy, and then you get really jumpy, and then you kind of go through, and I'm definitely paraphrasing, it's more specific than that,
Yeah.
but basically you build, you make sure you can lift a lot, and then you fine tune those muscles to move fast. And then in season, I tend to gravitate towards jumpier strength. So a lot of plyos, a lot of very quick movements. And I keep up with the core strength, but basically at this point in the season, I'm not doing a whole lot of strength anymore because it starts to kind of go like this. And if I do too much, I'm just going to get sore again. So I kind of gently come down with how much strength I'm doing in season.
So it's probably like when you come down, it's probably in terms of weight, right? In terms of like throwing around big weight.
Right.
It's probably still doing strength work, but it's more or less high reps, low weight. Is that correct?
Or not even so many high reps, but just like very snappy movements. And it's always technique
More
first.
power focused, right?
Exactly. Very powerful. And just making sure like I'm not like in season when I'm racing a ton, I want to make sure I'm not pushing it to the point where I'm going to get sore from what I'm
Yeah.
lifting. So
Letting the strength training interfere with your sport training.
exactly.
Got it.
But early season or, all through spring, summer, and fall, then we're lifting big. Like then I'm trying to deadlift a lot. And that's very, very fun.
See, and this is I love this like this idea of seasons. Like even though like you're obviously a professional athlete, I think that everyday people can follow a similar pattern to their years to get have fun with their training and see results. So hopefully everyone
Absolutely.
thinks
And it's
about
so
like,
fun to have different goals at different
yeah,
points in the year. Like maybe this month, like I'm gonna get really good. I'm gonna pick up a lot of weight. Like this is gonna be really cool. And then next month, I'm gonna work up to more pull-ups, or I'm gonna work up to holding a plank for this amount of time. Like it's so cool because there's endless options of things that you can target and focus on.
that is so cool. Well, this is a fantastic conversation. I've really enjoyed this. I've learned a lot. And thank you so much. Thanks to everybody it's like everyone's still here. I think we could keep going for another hour. But I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know you get back to training, and I really thank you so much. And thank you everyone for listening in today. Thank you, Noon. Thank you, Lyric. This was a lot of fun, and I hope we can do this again sometime.
This was awesome. Thanks so much, Matt, for hosting. And thank you everyone for all the great questions. It was super fun to get to share the things that I'm working on with you.
Well, thanks, Jesse. And thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day, and we will see you soon.
All righty.
Bye.
Bye.